You do need to know, folks, and that's why you're tuned into the Gazette Radio Hour with Doug and John on Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM-1220 KHTS. This is the radio digest version of the Santa Clarita Gazette and free classifieds for all you do need to know to be in the know.
You did that right, Doug. A little bit of feeling. That was actually pretty good.
Thank you.
It's interesting. It's almost back to school time.
You know, I don't get that. Now, when I was growing up...
Way back when?
Yeah. The school always started the day after Labor Day.
Oh, I know. They change it.
Yeah.
But have you heard, but you've got school coming up. It's football, which is always cool, too.
Right.
But the school thing is kind of interesting. You've heard about Common Core, right?
I have heard about it, but to be honest, and I'm just being totally honest to our upcoming guest and our listeners, I don't know a lot about it.
Let's get an expert on. We've got Lydia Gutierrez. She's running for State Superintendent of Public Instruction. Lydia, you're on the phone, I hope.
Yes, I am. I'm right here.
Awesome. Okay, can you educate Doug, especially?
Why are you singling me out?
Well, because I don't want to sound stupid. The Common Core thing that we keep hearing about on the news, should parents be concerned?
Well, yes, they should be, because they're standards that were never verified, validated internationally, nationally, or by the state. They were put together in 6 months, actually.
Oh, my gosh.
It's actually it's a theory. It's not even a standard. It's a theory. A theory is an idea, a thought, as a possibility, but it needs to be tested. And the Common Core state standards never were.
So, okay, so they're trying to come up with, I'm trying to figure out how they're trying to implement this. They came up with these standards, and they want the student, obviously the teachers have to teach to the standards, right?
Yes, by law we have to teach it.
Yeah, so you're teaching, and nobody actually sat down to think about what we're actually teaching. And it's not so much what, but how we teach.
Well, what do you mean by how we teach?
Well, isn't it, I thought the whole Common Core thing was we're teaching people to be college and career ready, right?
Ready, right.
And I'm like...
But it really... Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, what are we doing now if we're not doing that?
Exactly. What have we been doing? Actually, we've been switching that 10% that the federal government gives us. Mm-hmm. We've actually been subservient to that 10% instead of the 90% the taxpayers have been giving us to fund public education for the academic success of their children. And what we've done is, since 1979, when Jimmy Carter opened up the door of the U.S. Department of Education, started the hand-grabbing of our children and their mindset. So what they said was, like with No Child Left Behind, it's not a standard. No Child Left Behind said that if you continue improving in your test scores, we're going to give you money, 10% of your budget. Well, and that's all it was, 10%. And everyone changed their whole system to please that 10%.
So, Lydia, is it so much the objection is that it's federally mandated, or is it the actual program itself?
Well, there's no real federal mandate. The only federal mandate is when it comes to No Child Left Behind, the waiver, Race to the Top. If you want to receive that extra bundle of money from Race to the Top, you had to accept Common Core, and that's where the federal mandate came from, which was against the law.
So it's all about money.
It's all about money.
Wow.
Exactly.
What a surprise.
There's a shock. And so we're actually, it's not, okay, from a pure, take the money out of it as much as we can, the whole Common Core thing, why is that bad? I mean, I understood that they're going to implement this, right now it's in, 45 states?
48, I think.
Okay.
Well, the thing is, there are states starting to, drop off, like Oklahoma is one of them. They said no more. We've tried it, we tested it, and said, no, that doesn't work for us. What happens is, if you have a standard that hasn't truly been validated, anything goes now. And that's what we gave away when we accepted Common Core.
Oh, so we have...
now, go ahead.
I was going to say, we have no idea whether this works.
Yeah, we have no idea. And even Bill Gates, the one that funded Common Core, he even says it may be a decade before we actually know if it does work.
Folks, you are listening to the Gazette Radio Hour, Doug and John on Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM-1220 KHTS, and we're talking to Lydia Gutierrez, who is a candidate for the State Superintendent of Public Instruction.
Okay, so wait a minute. I'm back. So Bill Gates started all this mess, pretty much.
Yes, he did.
Okay. I'm still having a problem with the college and career ready, because I know when a lot of people go to college, they have to take introductory courses and some of these things like math, almost remedial courses.
Well, the thing is that what's happened is that when they set the standards, when they wrote the standards, they didn't even ask beginning college professors what is expected of students graduating from high school. And that's how you would first set up your test if you were going to, for college readiness. You would want to know what do the beginning classmate of a college student, what do they need to know? And that's how you would start your test with. But they didn't even do that.
You think Bill Gates would be able to reverse engineer something like this and go, okay, well, where do we want them when they graduate high school, and how do we get them there?
Well, see, the thing is what he did was he took his millions of dollars, he went to corporations, he says, you know what, we have a lousy workforce. I think we have to do something. I think we need to take control of public education. And they all shook their heads, yes. So what he did was he used Achieve Inc. as a front, and Achieve Inc. went around to nonprofit educational organizations and said, don't you like Common Core? And they all shook their head, yes, yes, yes. And the reason it was never officially validated is so they could push it, ram it down as fast as they could, because it takes years to actually validate a standard, because they have to look at the cognitive development of the child, the appropriateness of the standards. It's like a stepping stone. Every step the child takes in grade level has to be concrete. But none of that was done, so it's actually quicksand.
Now, see, once again, the research I did and looking at this, I don't have a problem necessarily with how they actually teach. Because I was very practical when I was a student. I always wanted to know why I have to know algebra and why 2 + 2 = 4. And how do I apply that in my actual life now in my career? And I got the impression that's what Common Core was more intrigued with and taught.
Well, you know what? That's the impression it's giving you, but that's always been there. What happened was when the federal mandate with this standardized testing, the focus was taken off of that. We actually had excellent standards, but what happened was the focus was taking the test. And the thing is that it's how you say, that concept of critical thinking has always been a part of our methodology. But what happened was the districts came and says, we're going to give you a pacing chart. You're going to follow this pacing chart. You're going to teach it at this time. You're going to say this vocabulary, where we became the facilitator. We didn't become actually the one giving instruction to the children. So it actually messed up our actual good standards.
Oh, geez.
You could understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Lydia, we got to take a break. Can you hang on after the break? I got a couple more questions for you.
Yes, I'd be happy to.
All right. You're listening to Gazette Radio Hour with Doug and John. We have Lydia Gutierrez, a candidate for State Superintendent of Public Instruction. You're on AM-1220 KHTS, Santa Clarita's hometown station. We'll be right back.
We are back, everybody. You're listening to Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM-1220 KHTS. It's the Gazette Radio Hour with Doug and John. The radio digest version of the Santa Clarita Gazette and Free Classifieds, which you can pick up a copy of all over town. It's the weekly alternative to the daily newspaper here in town. And our special guest right now is Lydia Gutierrez, who's this candidate for State Superintendent of Public Instruction. Lydia, I have a question for you. Did Bill Gates have anything to do with the formulating the program, or did he come up with the actual ideas?
Well, he's the one that funded it. I know that for sure. And he asked two people, David Coleman and Jason Zimba. David Coleman did the English language arts. He was the architect for that portion, and Jason Zimba was for the mathematics section. Yeah, now, neither one of them have ever taught in public education from K to 12.
Wow.
So, yeah.
You know, what my over-desired question right now is to ask, are these guys liberals? I'm just wondering, does it matter? Or?
Well, I mean, I don't think that matters necessarily. But to me, it's how do teachers feel about this? I mean, they must be...
It's across the board. It's up and down, where you got to realize, by law, we are employees. And whatever our employer asks of us, we are to do.
Right.
So we are asked to teach Common Core. Now, there are teachers that are speaking up some, but not many. They're frustrated, and they're saying, wait a second, especially in the primary grades like I teach, where they're asking our children, especially our English language learners, to perform at a certain level where they are just developing the concept, the foundation of understanding how to speak English, to understand the language, and then to be thrown these curves that they have to learn all these different types of process to supposedly get to the right answer.
Right.
So it's overwhelming for our children, definitely.
It just seems like, it seems like it's really frustrating because it seems like it's not a horrible idea, but the implementation is so backwards that it's. Are we going to throw out the baby with the bathwater?
Well, there's nothing everything has to be thrown out. When you have standards that have not been verified and validated, because that's what creates your curriculum. It helps you write the curriculum for your gifted, it helps you write the curriculum for your special needs, for your students that want to be successful, but they have no foundation. There isn't any. So people can literally go on the internet, write something, and call it a standard and say it's Common Core aligned.
Wow. That's sad. That's sad. So
like I'll give you an example. There's called the Next Generation for Science, the standards, and I was at the NEA convention. I'm a delegate for the NEA, National Education Association.
Right.
And I was going to join the science caucus because I taught math and science in middle school. Mm-hmm. And I said to them, did you know Common Core has not been validated? The standards. And they said, well, it's okay because we like the next generation because we like the concept it's trying to cover because it's more of a progressive mindset. And I said, wait a minute. You know it has not officially been validated, and you are willing to accept it because it goes along with your mindset. I said, sorry, I will not sign up to your caucus. I refuse to.
That's the teachers teaching what the teachers believe, not the actual facts, pretty much.
Exactly.
Oof.
And that's what you don't want.
Yeah.
So the thing is that there are people out there that want to compromise. I'm a person that will not compromise.
Right.
And that's why I'm the only of the two that are running. They support 100% Common Core. One has never taught a day in his life in public education. The other one has been a politician for 34 years. And when you only spend $30,000 and get close to 1 million votes, you know you have something that people want changed.
Exactly.
So that's why I decided to be a write-in candidate. I'm the only one that can be a write-in candidate because I'm nonpartisan. A partisan race, you are not allowed to have a general election write-in, but as nonpartisan, I am.
Well, Lydia, you walked right into my next question because I was going to ask you about your candidacy and how's it going. And maybe real quick, could you tell our listeners, what does the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, what is her actual job?
The actual job is the oversight of finances, which has not been effectively done for the last 4 years. If I ran 4 years ago, came in fourth. If I would have won that election, the first thing I would have done was done an audit. Know where the money's coming in, is the money going out. I would have created accountability, transparency. Because right now, this is a situation, we had Inglewood School District, where they became insolvent, so they had to be taken over by the state. And what is the first thing they do? Legislation gives them money to help get them out of the deep water they're in. They go have a retreat, a $50,000 or more retreat on our tax dollar money.
Wow.
I know. And then they lose two of their, the superintendent, the current one puts in two people in place. They both had to be removed because they were not servicing the students correctly.
Wow.
And then, on top of that, then we had Centinela School District, where they were paying over $600,000 for the superintendent for 6,000 students. 6,000 students.
That's not a bad job. If you get elected, could you put me in for something like that?
I know. But the thing is, there was no accountability.
Right.
He really lost out. Those two school districts could have been saved the moment he walked in and he took care of business.
Absolutely.
That's what I would like to see happening.
Lydia,
and then also, I would like to start petitioning to the federal government and start campaigning with other states to say, no more, the money doesn't stop at the federal government's U.S. Department of Education. Before they opened up their doors, the federal government used to give us money directly to the states. It did not stop at their doorstep with their demands.
Exactly.
And I want to get rid of their demands.
Exactly. Hey, Lydia, real quick, if people are interested in your candidacy and they want to get more information, where can they go? How can they get information about you?
Well, the thing is my website is still up, Lydia 4 Schools, the number 4, Lydia, the number 4 schools.com. And then I'm on Facebook. That's Lydia Gutierrez for CA, California State Superintendent, and I just found out I have a parent that's out there trying to gather up votes saying 5 million votes against Common Core. And she's trying to rally people to say, if you're against Common Core, you need to know who to vote for.
Oh, awesome. Hey, Lydia, I want to thank you for coming on with us today. We'd love to check in with you later on as the election draws nearer, say how you're going. And if we have more questions about Common Core, I'm sure they're going to be coming hot and heavy as the school year starts.
Oh, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Lydia.
That was Lydia Gutierrez, a candidate for State Superintendent of Public Instruction. You're listening to Gazette Radio Hour with Doug and John on AM-1220 KHTS. We'll be right back.